Good afternoon from a sunny Wednesday in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, and the beautiful, the white. I don't know how far you are away from the White Cliffs of Dover, but certainly what do they call it? God's country down in
They
Kent.
do. The Garden of
Yes,
Kent. Absolutely, they do.
Garden of
And
Kent.
yes, and in
That's
Whitstable
it.
we're about half an hour from the White
Okay.
Cliffs of Dover.
Okay, nice. But I
Lovely.
understand there are various. We're not here to talk about geography, obviously, but there are other areas of Kent and Sussex that look very Doverish because they have their own white cliffs. Anyway, that's a conversation for another time. So yes, good afternoon. We will start as we always do, and I always say that, so I could actually record just that little bit and add it in. But we always start with if you whether you can remember the first thing you wrote. Often it's at school, whether you enjoyed writing and reading at school,
I'm
whether you
just
wrote
trying to
before
think.
that.
Yes, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I know that my parents, when we were quite young, gave us diaries. They used to be sort of scrapbooky sort of diaries in those days that we used to keep when we went on holiday,
Oh,
our first holidays to Austria and things like that. So that was
that's
always exciting.
nice.
Keeping like a little journal and collecting things that you could
Mm.
be and paste in there. So I quite like doing all of that.
Okay.
At school, I didn't really do any creative writing, but I was really interested in literature. I loved English literature. I did it at A level, got an A, which was fantastic. So I just loved it all so much, and
Yeah.
that really opened my world to sort of like writing and the dynamics of writing and different authors and different styles, and that
Mm.
was a really really fun time. And then I think it wasn't till I moved to Spain when I was 21. Lived over there. So, and
Mm.
I think I don't know if it was just yearning for a bit of English because it was all very Spanish then. Not many people spoke English where I was. So,
Yeah.
whether I was yearning for more English and I sort of immersed myself more into writing that way.
Right.
But I think I wrote a story about real estate, some sort of real estate fraud or something like that
Okay.
back in the 80s. So that was
Yeah.
really probably my first venture into that. But I knew I wanted to write.
Right.
I knew that, but there weren't all the writing courses then that there are now.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, we're so lucky now. The writing courses galore, but
Oh,
we didn't have the
absolutely.
internet like we had then.
No.
So it was like the Open University, which was great for me because that was online and distance learning. So when I
Mm.
got my first computer, it just opened a whole new world for me. It was fantastic.
And were we lucky that I was partially back in the day where I submitted manuscripts, but not really novels. It was all just short stories to women's magazines.
Yes,
But
that's right. Yeah,
I don't envy anybody who had to literally print off, and they probably wanted it double spaced, single sided, 300 and something pages of your manuscript, several
yeah,
copies to several agents, and self
yeah,
addressed envelopes. So, but then
yeah.
postage was a lot cheaper back in the day, where you have to send it off, and then if you get a thick wodge back, as you did with sending short stories to magazines. If you get a very thin envelope, then it's an acceptance. But if it's several pages long, then your stories come back to you.
Mm.
So where did your first? Because you write a lot of things. We've got here thriller and romance novels, two short story collections, and we'll talk about your novel mentoring
Oh,
program, amongst other things.
okay.
So which came first, short stories, novels? For me,
Okay.
it was short stories and then novels.
Well, interestingly enough, when I went to do my MA, I was living in Belfast at the time. So I was lucky to go to Queen's University, the Seamus Heaney Centre there. And I did my MA there, which was a fantastic experience because it was the first time really that I'd ever sat with sort of writers in the same room around a table when we sort of analysed and dissected each other's work, and you
Mm,
got feedback, constructive feedback from other sort of authors, if you like. Some
mm,
of them had been published but wanted a refresher course, because their books weren't as successful as they had
right.
anticipated. But that was the first time I was getting feedback, and during that time we had to write something like 2 short stories a week. So I kept all of those, and that became the basis then for my Red Shoes and other short stories.
Mm,
So after my MA was finished, I decided to polish them all up and publish them because otherwise they'd have just sat on my computer for ages. So
absolutely.
I did that on the back of my MA, and also for my dissertation. Golden Icon was part of my dissertation, which was my first book, which was the prequel to the Mikky dos Santos crime thriller series. It was the international one. So I started that sort of while I was at university, and I ran it past my lecturer then, and I said, "What do you think?" And he thought it was a great idea. And he asked me what the ending was, and I told him what the ending was, and he thought that was brilliant. Remarkably enough, he just wanted to know what the ending was,
Okay.
which was great because I had the ending, which not everybody has when they write, do
No,
they?
no, no. A lot of people,
Just don't have that.
discovery writers, especially.
Yeah, yeah,
I've just set up about the self-publishing, hence all the tote bags behind me for the in-person festival. The mini fests that literally a day old, and one of those, the different topics. So we're going to be talking about plotting versus pantsing, and
yes,
one of those.
yeah.
Which are you? Are you
I'm a plotter. I'm a plotter.
are you?
I call myself the structure queen, actually, and I think it was
Okay.
something that I learned very early on. I realised that it's all very well for me personally, sort of writing it all, but if I had no structure to it,
Yeah.
then I wasn't being as productive, if you like. I was still as creative, but not as productive.
Mm.
And I wanted to have that goal. In the end, I wanted to actually write the books and publish them. I didn't just want to have endless sort of writing on my computer and never do anything.
That's
So I
me.
became,
That's
yeah,
me. I
really,
have lots. I have
yeah.
loads, including 100,000 word serial killer novel,
Oh my
which
gosh.
which you kind of think, why don't you do something with that? But
Yeah,
I call it my Eric Morecambe novel because it's got all the right notes. It's just not necessarily in the right order. Because I was
yeah,
going to do it as a standalone, and then I thought, no, let's do it as a series because I
yeah,
write both, so some standalone, some series. But there was a lot. There were a lot of scenes that didn't fit together. So I thought, okay, let's make it a trilogy or maybe a quadrilogy, whatever the fourth equivalent is, and then I thought, no, let's just, because I can tie it all together, let's just make it one book. And then I changed my mind again. So I've got various versions of it. So it's one of these things that's on my jobs list to go back to. I say now I'm a plantser,
a
so I
plant.
plot a bit, and if
Yeah,
I've got the ending, great. But I think even if you're a Frederick Forsyth, where you have a 300 word outline, you must, when you're writing, still get the thrill of saying, actually, this is what I thought was going to happen, but no,
yeah,
I like this. I like this better.
yeah. I think for me, it's more about not knowing the ending necessarily, but it's having the important plot points. So at least if I've got the main sort of like pivotal plot points where
Yeah.
it all changes, or action is forced upon the characters,
Mm.
and each time you add the stakes, if you like, you up the
Yeah.
stakes with it all. So long as I've got those 3 or 4 things, then I can lead the characters, or the characters end up leading me actually to those things.
Oh,
And then sometimes they even change, but I've got to have that aim to begin with.
yeah.
But that can even change as well, because as I'm writing, especially when I was doing the Mikky dos Santos series, because
Mm.
they were set in so many different countries all over Europe.
Yeah.
I suddenly think, oh, that'd be a good idea. Oh, that'd be really exciting. Oh, I could change that, and this, they could do this and they could do that. So it
Yeah.
was just the excitement, and then of course the amount of research that you need to do, because I didn't know anything about drones, or
Right.
little microlights, or anything like that, or in
Mm.
drug smuggling, or that hadn't been within my realm of experience. So there's an awful lot of experience that I researched, but also that I did different courses as well. I could do online courses with different universities. So I did one for antiquities and art and looting and that sort of
Okay.
thing, submerged shipwrecks and the underwater world. So I'd do like a 6-week course, which was invaluable,
Yeah.
because I often think that the reader needs to have. um
Lost your video.
Lost my video. That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. You can carry on talking.
The reader needs to have they need to know you've done your research, because some of these might be experts in antiquities or artwork or
Yeah.
paintings or whatever. So
Yeah.
you need to do the research, because otherwise they'll be reading it and think, oh god, that's a load of rubbish. You know
Right.
what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Do
I
you,
couldn't
do you
afford that.
I've got so many questions I want to fire at you. Why you went to Austria, and whether you're fluent in German, whether you, because you're of your Spanish experience, whether you translate some of your books, so whether they're English and in Spanish and maybe in German. But also, you're going back to your publishing your short story collections. Was that your first foray into um, self-publishing?
Yes, it was. Well, I published the Golden Icon first. Actually, I published the Golden Icon
Okay.
first, because I finished that book, and then it was after I thought, oh, well, I want to release another book quite quickly, and I had all those short stories. So with a tidy up and a good lot of editing, then I managed to put that together as well.
Yeah.
But with regard to the foreign languages, I mean, we went to Austria when I was a child. I was one of 5 children. I think my mother thought she was the new Julie Andrews. With The Sound of Music came out, and we were all herded over to Austria to walk up mountains barefoot and to drink what's that milk they have over there, buttermilk, with in the field with all the cows, and sing along as you walk up the mountains.
Well, I know they're chocolate Milka.
Oh, that's but the Sound of Music in its day.
I was delighted because we only had, what's the big one beginning with R, where it's all a block. I want to say Rimmel, but it's not. But yes, when Milka came over to, especially the one that's a bit hazelnutty, without the nuts in it. There's a special name for it. I do like that.
Yeah. No, so I mean, I didn't ever actually learn. I did do German for 5 years at school, but I mean, I don't remember much of it. I mean, I think if I'm in Europe, I can get through with most languages to a degree, but Spanish, obviously, because I was there for 20 years, and yes, that makes me fluent. Which was great. It's a fabulous experience to have that, to be able to live.
And so many different countries speak Spanish.
Absolutely.
Spain,
absolutely. Yeah, I think after English is probably even before China. It's the second highest speaking language in the world for that language. Yeah.
When you finished your first novel, who's obviously your tutor, I guess, at the time?
Yes.
Did you have other people going through it before you, and I'd say professional editor, because they would be professional, technically? But before you published it, who you?
I did. Well, I had we'd had several visits by some literary agents over to the university in Belfast. So I ran it by some of them, and they thought it was a great book. They thought it was a brilliant book, but they just said they didn't find the market for it at the moment, because they're always looking a year or 2 years ahead, aren't they, with the market? They said they just don't. They think it's brilliantly written, love the book, but they just couldn't see a market for it at that time. So I thought, well, to hell with you. I'm in my arrogance, like you are when you're young. You say, to hell with you, I'll publish it myself, So I did, which was obviously in those days quite an exciting thing to do, because again, back in 2013, it was all just beginning, And as well as publishing that, I then also decided to start my Mikky dos Santos thrillers as a spin-off from the first book. I didn't want my main protagonist in that book to be my protagonist all the way through the rest of the series. I wanted something younger, a bit more kick-ass, and a bit more, with attitude, and who could probably do a lot more exciting things. So she's in her 30s, artist, art forger, and photographer. So she was a bit on the verge of, is she going to be good or is she going to be bad type of person, which was really exciting.
You mentioned drones. Do you find that as technology goes on, you have to update your books for the technology, or are they set in a certain era that it was right at the time and it stays like that?
Yeah, I think they were set in a certain era, and they're fine for that time. Yes, I think they're fine for what I needed them for at the time.
It does make life easier, doesn't it? Otherwise, if you don't have
I didn't have that hassle of having to go back and re-edit books, and some of my books really are probably quite timeless to a degree. But I think any books do grow old, don't they? But in style, whether it's an Agatha Christie thriller or anything else, you can place it, can't you, in history? And I think mine will probably be placed in the 90s,
right,
or the noughties or whatever. So yes, I think there is a time and a place for these books. But yes, people are reading them still, and they're still exciting. They're still quite thrilling, really. So that's all the good news. That's good.
Well, it's frightening to think that 1975 is now historical. Anything 50 years backwards. And to me, when you talk about the 1990s, that seems like a decade ago at the most.
Yes.
And then you sit and realise, actually, 1995 was 1996 now was 30 years ago.
It's frightening, isn't it? How quickly time goes. And it does. I don't know about you, but for me, it feels like yesterday. I mean, I can cast my mind back, and the memories are so vivid. But yes, it's shocking. It just goes so quickly. But I have lots of very young friends, fortunately, and I'll say things to them, and they'll go, "Oh, I was only about 2 then, or wasn't born then, or."
You see pictures on Facebook that have the old-fashioned phone with the dial.
And
And I think there's a one where you've got this, and a youngster goes up to, I say youngster, I feel really old now saying youngster, goes up to it and presses the buttons not really working, and not lifting the receiver.
I know, it's
Um,
amazing, isn't it, really?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I love living in this modern time. I really
Oh,
do. I
so
mean,
do I.
to have a
We're so
computer at your
lucky.
fingertips, to be able to just research things
Yes.
without, I mean, I used to love going down to the library, and I still do to a degree. But I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that you've got information at your fingertips, I just love that. Yes, I can spend hours and lose myself going down rabbit holes researching,
Yeah.
which is another part of being a writer, isn't it?
Absolutely. Have you got any of your books there to show us? We're going to talk
Oh,
about covers, where
I
you
have,
can show us a couple of covers.
there we are. These are all this is all my Mikky dos Santos series. That's all my Mikky dos Santos
Okay.
series. So these are all international covers. That was the Golden Icon. That was the
Oh,
first book
yes.
set in Lake Como,
Okay.
an island. And each one is set in 3 different countries. You know, it could be Morocco, it could be Switzerland, it could be Croatia, it could be Tallinn. They're all set all over all over
Yeah.
Europe. So if
Yeah.
if you're on holiday and you're actually in the place in Malaga or somewhere like that,
Yeah.
and you're reading a book that's based there, you can walk around and see where it's
Know where
actually
they
based.
are.
Yeah.
Oh. And I like that they look very similar. So it's a bit like Lee Child. You know, he has
Yes.
Lee Child at the top,
Yeah.
but you know that it's
It's the
a,
branding, isn't it?
yes, exactly, that they, and especially the spines, because quite often you'll see a traditionally published even author who has, they may have been published by different publishers, but even so, even if they're not, they're a bit all over the place if you stack them together. So
Yes.
are
Yeah. No,
they
that was the branding was really important. Well, I had my own marketing company in Ireland for 10
right?
years. So I was quite aware of branding, and I
Yeah.
got it wrong. I haven't got one of my old books to show you.
Okay.
I can show you the before and after,
Right.
because I
Yes.
didn't realize I was going to write, so many books. I just thought, oh,
Yeah.
I'd write 1 or 2, and
Yeah.
then I realized, well, I had to. So I went to a book cover designer, and he just said, right, these are your books, and he worked through methodically for me. But each
Yeah.
of them, if you look,
Mm.
has it draws you in. There's a pathway or
Yeah.
somewhere where you're leading
Ah,
into, you can walk
yes.
into.
Yeah.
So that was the theme for all of them, where you can
Right.
walk into, and that's the cathedral in Salisbury. That's it there,
Okay.
and this is in Tallinn, all the
Right.
archways, and then this is London Bridge. So
Oh, yes.
within each of the books, you could actually
Yeah.
walk through, and
Yeah.
then on the back, then you've got a little bit of each,
Oh,
so
nice.
one particular country.
Yeah.
So it's all done really
Really
professionally, and
well.
there's the inroads, there
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
windmills there. So yeah, I mean, I was really pleased with those,
Yeah.
and I think once I had that branding there, when I wrote my next series, my Ronda George thrillers, I
Mm.
wanted something a bit similar. So these are domestic
Right.
thrillers. So
Yeah.
that's the concealers, the influencers, the manipulators.
That's
Then
a Bitcoin, isn't it? That
that's
being,
right.
yeah.
Yes, it's all about bitcoins. Yes, all
Right.
about bitcoins and
Very, very up to date then.
wine fraud.
Oh,
Wine
yeah.
fraud based in a monastery
Yeah.
in Wales. Yes, these are a little bit more punchy, a bit more
And is it
punchy.
the same person who does all your covers now?
No, that was somebody else. I mean,
Okay.
I try and get an idea myself of what I want.
Mm.
And then I go to a professional book cover designer. But the book cover designer that did these, he's since moved, so
Okay.
he's not local to me anymore. But
No.
my new series, my romance series, these are all taken. These pictures are all taken. These are all places in Whitstable.
Oh,
And
nice.
these are all pictures of the
They're good
harbour.
pictures. They're
Yes, these are all
really
taken
good
by my
pictures.
friend who's a photographer.
Ah, yeah.
Tim
Does
Tim
show.
Tim Hinchliffe. This is Harbour Street in Whitstable. If anybody's actually been there, this is where all the action takes place in one street in Harbour Street,
Oh,
and
no.
it's all about all the shopkeeper, the owners, and what goes on down
Yeah.
there, and the
Yeah.
famous beach huts in Whitstable, and
Yeah.
the beautiful harbour we have in Whitstable,
Yeah.
and some of the cladded houses that we have in Whitstable. So there's
Nice.
a theme going on with all of those as well, which is
Yeah.
really important to me.
And
Um,
how do you find your marketing? Because it's usually where people go, ugh,
yeah. Well, marketing is challenging. I mean, any writer will tell you that, because it's a
Yeah.
full-time job, isn't it? As well as writing,
Yeah.
it's a full-time job. I
Yeah.
have mailing lists, so and what I do is I do a lot of promotions, and I give away the first book in the series if people join my mailing list, and then I have automated emails going to them.
Yeah.
So I do specific promotions at certain times of the year, certainly for Christmas, or the spring, summer, autumn, that type of thing. And
Yeah.
I just experiment with my promotions, really.
I think that's the best way of capturing people, because if somebody signs up to your newsletter,
Mm,
they're interested already.
they are.
And I said, we had this conversation the other day, I think during the festival on Sunday, that if Facebook goes, if social media were to disappear tomorrow, you would still have your newsletters, still
Yeah.
have your emails to
Yeah.
your fans.
Yeah. And
Which
it's
is,
a great way of communicating with them, because I do a newsletter normally every month.
mm,
Just to keep them updated with what I'm doing, or sending them.
yeah,
Sometimes I'm
yeah,
discounting my books for a change, or
sure,
putting some different promotions together, or something like that.
yeah.
But it's a way to keep them informed. It's a way to get feedback from them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I can ask them
I think
questions.
any more than once a month. But I do
Mm.
well, I say I do. I haven't done it since probably before COVID, BC. Crime. So I have the option for people to sign up to crime or women's fiction or non-fiction about writing.
Yeah.
And so I would, if somebody signed up to all three, then they would get three. And this is on my list to do after my tax return, to get my newsletter back up and running. And so the most they would get if they've signed up to all three
Mm.
is three newsletters. But then they'd be
Mm.
about different things. And I get so many newsletters, and I file them in the relevant folder on
Yeah.
my Gmail, and think, okay, at some point I will sit and read through them all.
Yeah.
But I
It
don't, and
takes
I
time,
should.
doesn't it?
But yes, you get the lovely statistics on. I don't know which mailing system you use.
I use MailerLite.
Do you? Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
it's
thinking.
very
I
good.
was back in the day was Mailchimp,
Oh,
but
yes.
yeah, I'm thinking of going MailerLite now.
MailerLite's very good. They
Be
charge for it
helpful.
now. Of course, it used to be free,
Yeah.
but they charge for it now when you get to a certain level. But
Yes.
it does everything I need it to do, which is great. And
Exactly.
I'm,
And
I'm
it's
familiar
worth its
with it now.
weight. Yeah, because you
I'm
can
familiar with
always,
it.
if you can tell that nobody's opened it in 6 months, which will probably, I would
Yes.
qualify in that respect,
Yeah.
then you can lose them
You
and
can lose them,
trim them
exactly.
every now and then.
And you can see how many open your emails. You can do an A to
Right.
B, which is a
Yeah,
better subject line in the email. Who do more of A open them or more B open them? So there's loads you can do. I don't do it all, because I haven't time to invest in
yeah.
doing all of that, because I'm
No.
working on another
Well,
project at
if
the
there's
moment.
still, if the level is still within your threshold, then that's fine, because you never know. There might be something, just the
Exactly.
name or a picture that might go, oh yes, actually, I've been
Yeah.
meaning to look at these.
Yeah.
So when you're not sorting out your MailerLite and your
Yes.
cover designer and photographer friend taking all your, what do you do when you're not
What do
writing?
I do? I've got a beautiful dog, a rescue from the Ukraine.
Oh,
And she came over on the Happy Bus at 5 months old, and
oh,
she's
how
like a
lovely.
mini German Shepherd. So I
Oh,
walk her a lot. I'd go down to the downs or the beach or
oh,
to the
because
woods.
you perfect location where you are.
It's perfect, but she's
Yeah.
a real skanky dog. If there's a dirty, muddy
Oh,
puddle,
oh,
she's straight in there
nice.
and she wallows like a hippo, and she
Yeah.
looks at you smiling, and they say, "Look at me, I'm really
Oh,
dirty. Look at me."
lovely.
And it's lovely. It's
Yeah.
lovely. So I'd meet up with friends, and we'd go to go walking and things.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is in an electric wheelchair with her dog, and she
Yeah.
puts it on full speed, and I'm there trying to keep up
Oh.
with her, especially if we go. I'm going.
Yeah, the dog keeps up,
Yeah,
presumably.
dogs keep up.
Yeah.
They're running ahead. They are, but
Yeah.
I'm the one that lagging behind. And she
Right.
said to me, maybe if you didn't talk as much, she said you'd be able to keep up.
Yeah.
So I need friends.
You'll have to build a little platform on the back of the wheelchair so you can
Like a
sit down and
sledge.
hold it. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no. So I do a lot of walking. My wife is down at the theatre. She's currently directing the panto in Whitstable at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's starting its second week this week. So obviously I'm a panto widow, but
Yes.
there's a lot of support there.
Yeah.
She needs a lot of my stuff. I help her with some of her stuff, and
Yeah.
which is great. We've got a wide social circle, which is fantastic. And of course, my second love after writing is travel, and I love traveling.
Yeah. It
So
sounds like it. You've been to all the places that you've written about.
yes, yeah, I'm very lucky. I love to travel. So So long as we've always got a holiday to look forward to and something, there, at the end of a goal, like the book I'm writing at the
Yeah, no,
moment, really quite different for me.
yeah,
So I'm getting a break. We're going away next month because that's when the manuscript goes to the person that I'm writing it with. So
right.
it's a collaboration. So it's very
Ah,
different to
okay.
anything I've written before.
Well, that was a sort of fairly last minute thought to the mini fests, because they're one every Monday in a
Yes, I saw that. Yeah,
different topic.
yeah.
And one of those is collaborations, whether it's
Oh,
maybe a children's author with an illustrator, or
yes,
like Nikki French, where husband and wife are writing the same book.
yeah.
So that'd
Well,
be
with me, it's a really weird. Well, not weird, really, but my one of my old friends that I met on the first day of uni,
uh,
she came down a couple of years ago, and we went for lunch on the beach, and
yeah,
like you do in the
yeah,
pub, which was lovely. And she said to me, Jan, she said, I'd like you to write my mum and dad's story. And I had known her mum and dad from university because I used to stay
yeah,
with them. And
yeah.
her mother came over on the kinder transport at 14,
Wow,
and her family perished in the camps. Her grandmother died in Auschwitz,
yeah,
and her father escaped from the tunnels of Warsaw during the uprising, and his father and his brother were shot by the Gestapo, and his mother was forced to walk in front of the tanks, as they
right,
were at the time. So, with
yeah,
Holocaust Remembrance Day being yesterday, it's obviously more poignant this week for us. But
well,
it's been an incredible journey because she gave me a box of documents. She didn't know who any family members were, didn't know what the
yeah,
letters contained. They're in
yeah,
German, French, Italian, Polish,
right,
whole load of
yeah. So you're
and I
able to work through them then.
had to play detective for
Yeah,
6 months before I've actually written it.
right.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's been an incredible journey, absolutely incredible.
Do you have a date that might be, or a deadline you've set
Well,
yourself?
yeah, we've met all the deadline. We're just doing literally the final edits now.
Okay.
I want to have those final edits done before I go away in 3 weeks' time, and then
Yeah,
she'll review the final edits.
yeah.
And then we have already sent it out to agents.
Okay.
Sent it to 3 agents already,
Yeah.
because it's in a good enough state for that. So we'll wait and if we hear back from them.
Yeah.
If not, I think we'll just go ahead and self-publish for
Yeah.
June.
Because
So I've just put together a marketing plan for that.
yeah, because agents will always want changes. I've
Yeah, of course.
I mentor a husband and wife, and the husband's been submitting his. So every day I get a sad face where it's come back with a no
Yeah,
from an
yeah,
agent,
yeah,
and the wife is submitting to agents with
yeah.
the first book. We've had nothing back yet. Well, she
No,
hasn't sent me any. We
yeah,
normally meet on a Wednesday, but they've got other books in mind. So next in the series, and one
yeah.
that's slightly different, and so I normally do Wednesday morning and Thursday evening, late early evening,
Mm.
and so I don't think they've written. I'm just waiting. I've helped
It's,
them
it's a very slow
out.
process, and you've got to be
Yeah,
prepared to play that game. And I said that to
yeah,
Joe. I said, if we submit to agents, we'll have to be prepared to wait for 2 or 3 months
yeah.
to see if they come back with anything, and then obviously be prepared to accept that they're. I mean, I've written their story as a biography,
Mm,
and I think now, well, not now, but I mean, I realised at the time, and I said it to Joe, look, we can write this as a biography, or
yeah,
we write it as a narrative non-fiction. And
yes,
neither of us were comfortable writing it as a narrative non-fiction because we didn't
right.
want to start making up stories, conversations, extra people we didn't know
No,
anything about, and
no,
it wasn't fitting for that. It
no.
wasn't fitting for that.
It's
So we
their
wrote
story,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah, we did. We wrote it as based, and I've included their letters, translations,
Yeah,
and all of that, and the whole story because they then couldn't have children.
right.
Um, they couldn't have children because Julian had contracted mumps in
Oh,
Sons of Warsaw. So after 10 years, they had to adopt. So they adopted my friend Jo, and
right.
they adopted her brother.
Yeah,
Age 21, he developed schizophrenia. So there was all of that sadness attached to it.
yeah,
Julian created this fantastic company, which was the forerunner of the mobile phone.
yeah.
He ended up having an affair to cope, obviously, with what was going on. And then in the 30s, Jo came out as gay. So her mother, who had lost everything when she left Germany at 14,
Mm,
really thought that, she'd have this incredible, wonderful family. And she
yeah.
struggled to have that environment and never any grandchildren, of course, which
Wow.
was obviously quite sad.
Sure.
And when she was dying, she was frightened Jo was going to be alone, and she said to Jo, "I think you should go in search of your birth mother."
Right.
And then that's the story for book 2. That's when Jo goes in search of a birth
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So there
I
is
don't want
there are 2 books.
I don't want to leave it on a sad note.
Oh,
But
okay, no.
I am being
It's
chased.
3 o'clock. Sorry.
I said no, you're fine. So end on a happy note. What's the best thing about writing?
about
your writing life?
About my writing life, it fulfills my passion. I love to tell stories. I love to I'm interested in people. I'm interested in their characteristics, but bad and good. And I think there's such a lot of good in the world. And certainly this book, I want to bring out the good in the world and the culture and integration and how important that is. And it's so topical in today's world. So yeah, I think it's making a difference when a reader, gives you a great review, or they phone you up, or they send you an email and say, Jan, I love that book. And they said the worst thing is that you finished it and I've got to wait another year for another one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that to me is the perfect compliment.
Well, they say nothing sells your last book like your next one. So we just have to keep going, don't we?
Keep going. That's
exactly.
it.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Honestly,
and hopefully our paths will cross if not in October. I think you're penciled in for the real thing in October, but certainly at least one mini fest, because you do have your expert side as well. So the mini fest in before then. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.